Welcome to This Is Lit, a podcast where we drink and talk about our favorite books. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Casey.
And we're your hosts, so everybody raise a glass and let's get started.
Okay, Liz! What are we drinking today?
Don't give me that look. Okay, so we are drinking Fabre en Provence by Côtes de Provence. It is a 2017 French rosé, and as we have specified before many times on this podcast, I do not speak French.
And I only speak French that I learned from the Duolingo owl. Give that 5 times.
Duolingo owl.
No, Duolingo, not dual.
Duo.
Yeah, because that's my problem is, since it's duo and then lingo, a lot of times you say dual ingo, and that's not right. It's Duolingo.
Duolingo owl.
Yeah.
Duolingo owl.
Anyway, we're already toasty, but let's go ahead and drink some more.
Clink. So today we are rediscussing Ready Player One while Casey makes strange noises like a cat that's upset.
Maybe the first rosé that I've ever had that I'm like, no.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it doesn't taste like much of anything. It's not sweet, which I like sweet, but it doesn't really have a lot of flavor at all.
It was $7 at Lucas Liquor.
I mean, that's fair. But, taste it again. There's not a lot of flavor at all.
There's not a whole lot to it, yeah.
It's
pink.
It tastes like sharp water. Does that make sense?
There's a hint of kind of like a strawberry, but not really. I'm kind of with you. Sharp water.
Doesn't taste like much.
I'm kind of on it myself.
Of course, we're both on it after I poured the whole bottle into our cups.
Well, you said you had a funnel.
I do have a funnel. But
so we can put you back on the Riesling and I can go drink the Pinot Grigio.
Should we do that?
Let's do that. Elevator hold music!
Liz, what are you drinking now?
I am drinking the Pinot Grigio Lumina by Rufino from 2016. It is an Italian della Venezia, which means it is from Venice.
It's sour.
It's Pinot Grigio, Casey. It's dry.
I hate Pinot Grigio.
It is from the northeastern regions of Italy.
And I am drinking the same Riesling we drank in the last episode.
With triple sec.
And Pinot Grigio.
And Pinot Grigio mixed in.
I did pour triple sec in here because it was flat and I needed more, but now it's just it just tastes like sugar. But it's still better than rosé.
I need to bring you some of our Concordia. We call it grape juice for adults. It tastes exactly like grape juice.
Listen, so many women, Liz is not, this is not the case for Liz because she likes dry wine. And red wine too, right?
Yes, I do.
And there are some...
Ooh, that is delicious.
No, we need to get the portata again that you got. That was a red wine that I really liked.
I might have bought some and it might be gone.
We'll have to do it again. But my point is, women, in particular, are shamed for their drinking choices a lot. If you see women getting a fruity cocktail at a bar, or if a woman likes sweet wine, dessert wines.
Yeah.
Men always have comments on it. They're like, oh, you just drink the fruity drinks. And they're like,
okay.
Well, first off, fruity drinks. If I get a blue Hawaiian at the gay bar, guess what? That's going to get me way drunker than your beer.
Yeah, you can have 2 and spend less money than buying 6 beers.
Good. But also wine, people are real snooty about wine. They're like, oh, you only drink dessert wines? You don't like... Cabernet Sauvignon, and I'm like, listen.
But Cabernet Sauvignon is good.
Well, to you, and
to me.
I'm not shaming people who like it. I'm just saying it's interesting how the shaming is directed a lot of times at women who like sweet things.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Even the world's most foremost wine testers everybody has a different palate.
Mm-hmm.
So just because they have a different palate than you doesn't mean the wine is better. They don't even know what they're talking about. So wine is very subjective. So drink what you like.
Another fun fact about wine is, like, in blind taste tests, people can't tell the difference between a $10 bottle and a $200 bottle. So don't waste your money. Just get some fucking Barefoot or whatever. Like,
moral of the story is drink what you like. Life is short.
And I like the $4 bottles of Andre champagne that I can get at CVS.
Perfect.
Because I'm a cheap ass and they're sweet. And they get me drunk, and that's all I want.
Yeah.
Is sweets that get me drunk.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring you some Concordia next time.
Yes.
Remind me, I'll bring you Concordia. When we
What was the
record.
other one you said you wanted to bring?
I think it was the Riesling.
Oh, yeah. I like the Riesling.
And you're drinking it right now.
With triple sec.
With triple sec.
So I'm probably going to be less coherent than you because there's actually, like, multiple liquors in my glass.
Yes. It looks classy. Casey is prepping for the bachelorette brunch we have tomorrow.
We have a bachelorette party tomorrow, but
yes.
also
a brunch. And
I'm doing Brunchin' and Dragons.
Yeah.
So
Casey
I'm a dungeon master for
yeah.
a D&D group, and we are having a brunch time D&D. So we're going to have mimosas, and Karina's making galettes, and Holly's making biscuits and gravy, and we're going to eat all of that and also murder some orcs at the same time.
Which leads perfectly into is a lot of D&D culture in Ready Player One,
which is what we're talking about today for the second time because, again,
Mercury is in retrograde,
and I lost everything. So, Ready Player One is
it was a novel released in 2011 by Ernest Cline.
It's basically a jack-off fantasy about 80s pop culture.
Down, Casey.
I mean, am I wrong?
Well,
it's Fight Club for tame people.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. I believe one of the reviews I read said it's like WarGames, but cooler.
Yeah, isn't that what you titled this episode?
Yes, it is.
I see how you did there.
Yeah, I do my best.
So, Ready Player One.
Stop playing with my phone. Sorry. Give it back.
It has a ring on it.
I know.
It makes me want to pick it up.
So, Ready Player One starts with Wade Watts. Wade Owen Watts.
Your quintessential teenage boy
living in the slums, aka the stacks in Oklahoma City.
This book is set in the future. It's in a
This book is set
a dystopian future.
This book is set in 2044 after the end of the after the energy crisis is hit, essentially. People cannot afford gas. They cannot afford electricity. There are 12 people living in Wade's single wide, and he sleeps by the dryer because it's warm. And his dad was killed holding up a liquor store for money, and his mom was an escort in the OASIS, which is the virtual reality created by, I keep wanting to say Anorak, but that's not right. His icon was named Anorak. What is the main guy's name? Holiday. James Holiday.
James Holiday, the inventor of the OASIS, which is an entire virtual reality world universe. So this is in some ways
where most people go to escape from the real world,
because there's a population crisis as well as an energy crisis. So
yes.
There's not enough space for anyone anywhere, and unless you're really rich, you're basically crammed into tiny apartments or trailers or whatever.
And there's no really middle class.
No. It's basically what we have now magnified by 10. It's basically what we're currently on the road to in the real world.
Which is horrifying. So, Wade
is the main character.
He's poor.
He's a poor kid, and he lives in what's called the stacks, which is literally stacks of mobile home trailers
yes.
on top of each other, held together by, like, wire framing.
Yeah, some of them, he said he's lucky because he lives in one that's less than 20 feet tall. And then the rest of them can be 30 to 40 feet tall from the ground.
Yeah.
So he lives literally in a junkyard. He is poor. The currency for the world at the moment is OASIS credits.
So more people spend time in this virtual reality than they do in the real world because they work there, they go to school there.
Yes.
His mom, for example, was an escort there, like that was her job. Most people don't spend any time in the real world.
No, most don't.
People can't afford housing, but they can afford a headset to go into the Oasis.
Exactly, and as long as they have... Wade, I believe, even says there are people who have met, befriended, fell in love, and married people they have never met in real life.
Because your avatar, still, like regular internet, is whatever you created to be.
Yeah, and Oasis is very big about your privacy. Wade goes to school in the Oasis, and he is a poor kid, and they can tell that because he has the default stuff with all his avatars.
So it's like, you know how whenever, like, you don't really play a lot of online games.
I've kind of started on my phone a little bit.
But
RPGs.
I play like Fortnite. I've dabbled in World of Warcraft in the past.
I do a Hogwarts mystery.
But like even in Hogwarts Mystery, it's there's microtransactions where you can get cooler stuff.
Yes.
Or even in Pokemon Go, they have that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, like there's a default skin that your character can wear. Like you can wear a black T-shirt and jeans. But if you have money, if you put real money towards it, or in this game, if you have Oasis credits, you can use them to buy, like, and you can dress up like a dragon, or you can, like, wear your house's colors in, like, the Hogwarts game. Or in the Pokemon game, you can wear a T-shirt with, like, your favorite Pokemon on it, or whatever. It's the same concept here. Wade is a poor kid, so he is wearing the basic skin that is provided to everybody for free.
Yes, and no one uses their real name in the Oasis. All of their real names and their avatar names are kept secret and locked away. All of their private information.
Which makes it interesting. So Wade goes by Parzival in the Oasis, which is a reference to King Arthur and the Round Table, one of his knights.
The knight that found the Holy Grail.
The knight that found the Holy Grail. So it's interesting to me because everyone thinks of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and the first thing they think of is Lancelot. Like most people probably...
I think of Galahad.
Well, yeah, but like Lancelot and Galahad, like people, if you ask someone to name all of the Knights of the Round Table, they'd be able to name Lancelot.
We are the Knights of the Round Table. We'll dance if we are able. That's the only thing I think.
My point is, most people with a little bit of thought could probably name Lancelot and Galahad.
Yes.
But probably not beyond that.
No. Sir Robin.
Yeah. But,
I'm sorry.
Parzival, so it's interesting that he chooses Parzival. Like, yes, there is that whole connection of he found the Holy Grail and he's hoping to find, like, an Easter egg. But... Which
brings us to James Halliday, the prologue of the book is James Halliday, the creator of the Oasis, has died, and he left no heirs, and so he left a big Easter egg hunt to inherit rule of the Oasis and his vast $billion fortune.
To own the Oasis.
Yes,
basically.
to own the Oasis.
Now...
Which basically makes you a god.
Which he died quite a while before the novel started.
Yes, he died 5 years before the novel even begins.
So Parzival is looking for the Easter egg, but it's quite a while after...
And egg hunters have earned the nickname Gunters in this multiverse. Parzival is a lone Gunter. Now, there are guilds that you can join. Guilds of Gunters. Guilds of Gunters.
There's also Gunters who are corporate holders.
For IOI, which is Innovative Online Industries.
So basically...
And they're the people
James Halliday had made the Oasis free to the public to use. Like, you could pay extra money if you wanted to wear different skins or whatever.
Yeah.
But use of the Oasis was free.
He saw it as a basic human right, I guess.
And the IOI people want to
charge you for access to the Oasis, which is what 99% of the population used to get by.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is, like, in this time period... It's interesting because, like, obviously nowadays, like, to be like, I have a right to be on this internet forum would be ridiculous.
Yes.
But in the future, whenever, like, space and privacy and, like, basic human things, like being able to live in your own bedroom are not things that people have anymore, it would be the equivalent of privatizing water.
Yeah, it would. It would be the equivalent of privatizing water. Thank you. I was trying to find something similar.
Well, I'm thinking of that because of...
Colorado?
Not Colorado, because of, Michigan.
Oh, yes. Which, by the way,
they're literally selling.
How many years has it been? It's been 4 or 5 years. Politicians
Michigan still doesn't have clean water.
Anyway,
Casey gets angry when she drinks.
angrier than normal.
My point is, even though in 2018,
did you see the Lorax? The new Lorax they did where the guy sold bottled air? I'm like, that's what this is like. This would be like if IOI got in charge of the OASIS, it would be like privatizing the ability to breathe.
I think it would be more like privatizing schools, because like literally most people go to school within the OASIS, or most people work within the OASIS.
We are not even going to go there right now.
Fuck you, Betsy DeVos. I hope you choke. Anyways, so the point is, even though in 2018 saying that someone has access to an online forum as a human right is ridiculous, in the premise of the book, in this future,
it's completely
future,
normal.
It is like a human right, and it makes sense. And so for this corporate entity to want to privatize it and to charge people money to use it is terrifying.
Because all you have to do is you need your haptic gloves and your visor, and that's all you need to get onto the OASIS. And you have to pay for those. So Halliday believed that you pay for those, you deserve access to the OASIS. This would be, you would buy haptic gloves, a visor, and access. And depending on your plan would depend on your access to the OASIS. Because there's hundreds of millions of anything in the OASIS. And it would be kind of like being like, oh, you have access to a third of the internet. You don't have all of the internet. You get Yahoo and
You're
YouTube.
talking about net neutrality right now. You realize that?
That's kind of what this book is kind of about a little bit. Don't you think, with IOI?
Well, I think when the book came out, net neutrality wasn't quite under...
Net neutrality was not an issue when the book came out in 2011, but...
it wasn't quite under the attack that...
In this modern day and age, net neutrality is definitely an issue that I see paralleled in this novel with the way Halliday envisioned his OASIS, which is why he called it OASIS, versus what IOI wants to do with it. IOI wants to basically take away the net neutrality of OASIS.
Yes, they do. And that's horrifying to most people because their day-to-day life... First off,
that's how they earn a living.
They earn their living in the OASIS. They go to school in the OASIS. Cutting them off from that basically cuts them off from any means they have to continue functioning as a productive member of society.
Yes.
So people don't want IOI to get a hold of the OASIS.
No, and they are called Sixers because they are given a corporate number and they all start with 6.
Yes. So, that's
Gunters and Sixers hate each other.
So the Gunters and the Sixers are both looking for the Jade Egg.
They're looking for Halliday's Easter egg. And to do that, you have to find 3 keys. You have to find the Jade key.
That's right.
The Silver key and the Crystal key.
Yes, and those keys are found through solving a riddle that Halliday left behind.
Left behind in Anorak's Almanac, because James Halliday's avatar was named Anorak, which was his D&D character.
That's how we got on this whole thing, because I'm having Bruncheon and Dragons tomorrow.
Yes, he was, James Halliday also worked with his childhood friend Ogden Morrow, or Og, and that ends up being interesting later on in the story, but a lot of people believed that Ogden Morrow had a lot of information on Halliday's Easter egg, and he did not. So
no, he didn't know any more than anybody else did. But our main character here is
Wade
/ Parzival.
Wade Parzival.
He is going about his business, so he'll go to school, and then when he's out of school, he spends his free time hunting for the egg.
However, he cannot get off planet because it costs credits to get off planet, which he has none.
And then he
discovers that the hiding place of the first Jade key is on his planet that he goes to school on.
The dungeon game.
The dungeon, yes. It is a replica of a dungeon from Dungeons of Daggerath.
Which is an old school. So the interesting thing is this is far enough in the future that this stuff is basically ancient history to the kids there.
Yes.
But
because James Halliday was obsessed with everything pop culture of the 80s, all of his clues are 80s pop culture references.
So the dungeon game was an old school game. So way back, and you probably remember this. I mean, I say to the audience here, like, I have no idea who's listening.
I don't play video games, Casey.
Old school video games, there used to be these RPG games where it was just like a text adventure game. So you would like sit there and your computer would have a black screen and white letters on the screen. They'd be like, you enter a dungeon. On the right side of the room there's a chest. On the left side of the room there are 2 doors.
It's a computerized version of Dungeons and Dragons.
And so then you could type in, go through the first door on the left wall. Like, it was not... I mean, it's so funny because nowadays we've got things like the Frostbite engine, and we've got, like, ridiculous, like, quality graphics. You've got your Nintendo Switch that you can just, like, carry around Zelda in your pocket and, like, play it out in public. Like, but back then...
Paul was playing Mass Effect 3 last night, and he was giggling about being able to drill Uranus.
Yeah.
So, but all those games had to start somewhere.
And these text-based adventure games were literally the most, like, crude form of this. It would, like, literally, it would just describe it to you. It was almost closer to a choose-your-own-adventure book than it was to a video game. And that's what the game is that he finds the Jade Key in.
Yes, and he had to beat the... What's it called? The skeleton monster at Joust.
Yes, he had to play Joust. Like the actual
arcade game Joust. And he beat him on the first try, and while he is in that dungeon, he meets Artemis, his love interest, which is spelled Art3miss, but it is spelled Artemis.
And she is another gunter.
Yes.
Who she figured out way before he did that the Jade Key was there.
She's been trying for 2 weeks. She just couldn't beat the...
So she figured it out before
Sacarac.
he did, but she couldn't beat... Yeah, she couldn't beat the Sacarac at Joust. Are we even speaking English anymore?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Fairly certain.
So, he gets the Jade Key, and that immediately sets off this huge chain reaction.
Because there is a scoreboard. A public scoreboard.
And all of a sudden, this nobody jumps to first place.
Shows up.
Just jumps to first
Jumps
place
to
out
first
of nowhere.
place.
And it's,
after
it's
5 years of nothing.
No one has found any of the keys to finding the egg. And all of a sudden,
and the
Parzival is just at the top of the scoreboard.
Yes.
So everyone knows about it. It's like if you like trending topics on Twitter. It's like if every trending topic was about the same thing, and all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like it's a big deal, and everyone's like, "What's going on?" And so everyone knows about it, but only like the people who are friends with Parzival, and not even all of them,
are like, "What the hell is going on?"
No.
Like his friend H.
H is my favorite character.
I adore H.
So H is Parzival's best friend, this big old nerd who hangs out with him, and they go to the same school.
They do not go to the same school, but H runs a big Gunter blog.
Right.
And so Parzival met him through this blog, and Parzival has also kind of been crush-stalking Artemis through her Gunter blog.
Right. So it's interesting that she's the one that he runs into at the dungeon.
Yes.
So,
I believe there was a line where it's like because everybody's calling card was a different thing that they could put into their inventory, and she had a really cool action figure or something like that, and he's like, I was ready to propose marriage then and there.
It's interesting. You know, like, the first time I read this book, you know what I kept getting, like, really nostalgic flashbacks to?
What?
Neopets.
Oh my gosh!
Do you remember Neopets? So
Yes!
Neopets was like, for you younger listeners out there,
for you youngins.
Neopets was a website. It was really popular in the late 90s, early 2000s, where basically you could be a monster owner. Like, you could own up to 4 pets. They were all monsters, like, of different varying types. Like, there were lizard monsters, there were mammal monsters, there were fish monsters. You could pick them out, you could name them, you could choose their color and their temperament. You could then feed them and play with them. And you could go to different, like, mini games. Like, there was, like, Tetris-type games.
And they could grow and evolve.
And
then you could buy the little plushies at Limited too.
Yeah, you could buy plushies for them on the real world. But, like, also, like, you could get paintbrushes from fairies to change the style of your pets. You could go on adventures, and, like, there were basically, like, miniature RPG games within this website. But there were also forums within the website where you could communicate with other players. So it was very much like a community.
Yes.
And it was the first time I ever was part of an online community where I was interacting regularly with people I didn't know in real life and, like, cultivating relationships with them. So every time I read Ready Player One, that is the first thing that it makes me think of. It makes me nostalgic for my time on Neopets back when I was 13 years old.
I was part of a Tamora Pierce RPG when I was younger, thanks to Allison Morrow. Hi, Allie. I miss you and I love you.
Allie, I hope you're listening to our podcast. We post about it on Twitter all the time. I was part of... This is very interesting. Because,
Go for it.
Okay, so nowadays the word turf means something different, and it's not a good thing. But in the olden days, I was on this board. We called it turf for short, but it was basically X-Men. Do you remember X-Men Evolution?
Oh, yeah.
The cartoon?
Yeah.
Not the original 90s X-Men cartoon, which was also great, but this was X-Men Evo, so it focused on
Storm and Wolverine.
Scott and Jean
were teachers. Scott and Jean, Nightcrawler, Rogue,
Kitty, and Rogue
Kitty were all students.
We had an entire forum, pro boards. We had an entire forum where we would we role played not only like as characters from the game, but we also had OC versions of the characters in different ones that we played. So there was one where we had just regular OCs. There was another one where we had OCs who were specifically mutants who only had useless mutations.
Like what?
I had an OC who had fiber optic hair. So her hair was
That's pretty sweet.
Would change colors and was fiber optic, but she didn't have any other useful powers. So, like, there were a lot of different things. There were, like, multiple different RPs going on in this board. That's where I met Jez, who was my first roommate after I graduated from college.
I need to join this.
We went
still going on.
It's not around anymore.
Dang
I don't
it!
think.
I had one. I had one that was similar.
Yeah.
That it was
Pro
people with
boards,
powers.
Pro boards, and GeoCities were where I spent most of my young internet time. And for some reason, every time I read this book, I think of my very early internet days, because I was just like on these random forums on Neopets or on AOL Messenger, just talking to complete strangers and like cultivating like legitimate and real relationships with them. Like nowadays, like that's pretty commonplace.
Well, see,
like my first,
I kept coming up with characters, and then they all kept intertwining, and I'm like, I should just write this down, and that's where my novel writing came from.
Yeah. No, like, it's just interesting because, like, nowadays it's pretty commonplace to meet somebody and befriend them on the internet.
Yeah.
My very first girlfriend, like, I met her on the internet.
But back in the day, it was like,
but
you
when
don't
we first
ever
started,
make friends on the internet
don't
because
talk
it's a
to
predator.
strangers on the internet. They're probably predators. So we were doing it anyway. Like, my parents were like, don't give away any personal information on the internet. But I was making friends with strangers on the internet. You know, from, like, our first computer was an Hewlett-Packard desktop computer.
What was your internet name?
My first internet name?
Yeah.
C.E. Hobbit.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Mine was Lady Nessa.
I wrote fan fiction under that name. My first email address was digikari at Hotmail.
My first email address was British Queen, because I thought Elizabeth, British Queen,
right.
Clever.
So I
thought I was horribly clever when I was 10.
Right, yeah. So my name is Casey Aaron. So I went by C.E. Hobbit on most websites.
Yeah.
And
now I can find all your Labyrinth fan fiction.
Oh God. Not just Labyrinth fan.
I'm really enjoying that one.
Fun fact.
I'm really enjoying Fleur de Hyacinth, by the way. Speaking of laymen. Okay, we're on a tangent. We need to get back.
Well, my point is, also, the fandoms that I was most active in.
Yes.
Early internet days. Danny Phantom.
Yes.
Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
Labyrinth. And
Yes.
National Treasure. I shouldn't admit this, but I was the big name fan in National Treasure fandom. Like, you know how, like, there's, like, the
I
author.
probably read some of your fan fiction, but never did anything about it.
I was what you would call prolific.
Casey.
It's embarrassing, but it's true. Like, everyone was like, oh yeah, I know C.E. Hobbit's National Treasure fanfiction. And I was just like, how did this happen to me? But I was
Which is similar to what happened to Parzival after he cleared the first gate.
Thank you for getting us back on
You're
track.
welcome, I'm trying.
So now everyone knows who Parzival is, but they don't know who he is.
Yes, but he had to clear the first gate, in which he had to go play a video game in Holiday's childhood home, and then he had to basically role-play Matthew Broderick's role in WarGames. Which I'm like, that would be so much fun. I would love for that to be a video game.
Have you ever seen WarGames?
I did sit down and watch it after we finished recording the previous podcast. So I have seen WarGames. I'm like, oh my god, Matthew Broderick is a baby.
I loved WarGames. Okay,
WarGames is so good.
Full disclosure, the only reason I read Ready Player One is because it was recommended to me by Jez, the one I told you about from the Pro Boards. She was my first roommate after college. She's the one who told me to read it because she knew I was obsessed with 80s pop culture. I was born in 89, literally the latest.
So am I.
The latest.
You're December 89, I'm September
Literally, I was
89.
born a week before it turned over into the 90s.
Yes.
But I grew up watching 80s movies, listening to 80s music.
Same.
And that's my, jam. That's the stuff I love. And so WarGames was a movie I had seen a long time before I ever read this book. And so I was like, that's awesome. But then I got to thinking, a good question to ask you, and that I can also answer. So Parzival does not have any trouble recreating the movie WarGames, remembering the exact quotes from the movie, and playing Matthew Broderick's character. Yeah. What movie could you do that for?
Oh!
What movie would it be easiest for you to do?
I have a list.
Well, pick one.
Pick one. Okay, don't judge.
I'm not judging.
This is a judgment-free zone.
Sure.
Van Helsing.
I knew you were going to say that.
Hi, Allie.
So you're saying you could play...
I could play any part in Van Helsing and get the lines down word for word.
The first movie that I thought of that I could do it off of is one that I feel like a lot of people could do it off of. Princess Bride. I know that movie.
Marriage.
Word for word, back and forth.
Marriage is what brings us together today. Apparently, Taylor is quoting the Princess Bride in her wedding.
In her wedding, yeah.
Yes, which, hi Taylor, listen to our podcast.
Taylor, we love you. Yeah, so Princess Bride was the first one I thought of. The second one I thought of was another 80s movie, was Clue. With Tim Curry.
I could probably do
and
Clue.
Leslie Ann Warren. Both of those are movies
my
that I can quote beginning to end.
My second one that I came up with is probably the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
That would be Karina's. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Why is the room gone?
Pirates of the Caribbean is one of those movies in our life
That signal is over 1,000 feet high. The entire Royal Navy is out looking for me. Do you even think there is the slightest chance that they won't see it?
Yeah.
Why is the room gone?
That movie that's an old favorite in our household. But yeah, Parzival, WarGames, luckily, is one of his very favorites. He's watched it over and over again, so he knows exactly how to play the part and to go through the whole thing.
Yes.
And he opens the gate.
Yes, he opens
Which
the gate.
just brings more attention on him.
Yes, because then his score jumps. And see, here's the thing. Artemis's score jumps just after him. So he has a couple hours head start. And then because of this whole book takes place over the course of at least a full year.
Yeah.
Year or two, at least.
Which is weird.
But after this, Parzival is able to... He becomes a celebrity. So he is able to gain OASIS credits by endorsing things.
Just by being who he is.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because before that he was like a literal nobody.
Yeah.
It makes me think of how YouTube worked in the early days. Like, nowadays, people are constantly trying to get famous on YouTube, but it's, like, near impossible.
Yeah, and
but
now
back
we
in
have,
the day, you had, Markiplier, or
the Vlog Brothers,
or the Vlog Brothers, who literally just, got on their channel and worked, and I'm not saying they didn't work for it, but, they got famous essentially overnight.
They really did.
Markiplier makes several $1 million a year playing video games.
Who's that one girl that does the sketches of her family? And she's just hilarious. She's
the Indian girl?
Yeah, the little Indian girl. What's her name? I feel terrible. I can't remember her name.
She does that. Jenna Marbles does something similar. Yeah. But yeah, there's there was a certain time frame, when YouTube was fairly new, from 2005 to 2008, where if you got on YouTube and you had a good hook, Yeah.
You could essentially be famous and rich.
Yeah.
And that's what this reminds me of, is that Parzival is like, he just hit it at the right time, and now he's famous and rich, but he's still searching for the Silver Key.
Which is everything a poor kid from Oklahoma City would have ever wanted.
Yeah.
And so he also gains the attention of Nolan Sorrento, who is the head of IOI Industries.
Now, at first he thinks he's okay. He feels like he can kind of
Be a flash master.
Yeah, he feels like he can interact with the IOI people in the OASIS with relative
He's
safety.
going in there with all the confidence and all of the untouchableness of a teenager.
But what he quickly realizes is that IOI not only knows his internet name,
They
in the
also
OASIS,
know his
they
real
know
name,
who he is
his
in real
address,
life,
they've gotten his school files, which all of this is highly illegal.
and highly classified. And they have access to it. So he goes in there thinking, no one knows who I am and I'll be fine. And then he finds out quickly they know who he is.
Yes.
Which is like if I had been playing around on Neopets and I found out that some guy who I was talking to on Neopets knew my real name and where I lived and was sitting outside my apartment.
And was going to kill you.
Yeah.
Because
And they kill his aunt and everyone else in his building.
IOI says you join us to hunt for Holiday's Easter egg and give us the Easter egg in control of the Oasis, or we'll kill you. Because they believed he was in his aunt's trailer and he was not. At the time. He only logs into the Oasis from his hideout because his aunt pawns anything valuable.
And he didn't want her to take his visor.
Exactly. So he was in his hideout and he believed it was a bluff. And when
And so
he logged
refused,
he refused, and nothing
and
happened
logged
for a
off.
second until the explosion happened.
And then his entire trailer exploded. His aunt and any of the other people that
There were 12 other people in the trailer.
they all died.
All of them. Including some of the other people who were in the stack.
Which is kind of a turning point for the novel, at which point it becomes less
It
of
gets
like...
really dark.
It becomes less of like a fantasy of like you be able to do whatever you want on the internet. And when you're on the internet, you're free as who you are. And it becomes like a race against time.
It does.
He determines that he's either going to have to turn everything over to IOI, or he's going to have to find it all and win the game
Yes.
now. And so, like, the novel takes place over the course of about a year, but most of the action takes place from his search for the Silver Key on, happens in a short period.
It does. It happens in a very
Because
short
once
period
they
of time.
try to kill him, he realizes the stakes are a lot higher than he thought they were.
Yeah, so he leaves Oklahoma City, fakes his death, changes his name to Brian Lynch, and rents an IOI apartment in Ohio.
Yeah.
Which is where OASIS was founded. So it's like fast internet access. It's wonderful. It's where every gunter wants to go. And so I thought it was interesting. They were talking about the electronic buses and how long it took to get there. And I'm like, oh, Lord, it took him like 4 days to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, nope, no. But he's...
Airplanes? What are those?
He's a what? 16, 17-year-old kid?
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing that when I was 16 or
Living on
17
his
years
own,
old.
having
Living
no
on his
family.
own, no family, no support system. And Artemis has said she will not date him because she is to focus on her journey for the key, which is a very Artemis thing.
I'm insane.
If you're into Greek mythology, goddess of the hunt and all that. And he has ruined his
Greek
relationship.
mythology, Artemis is a lesbian. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules.
Oh, she totally is. Her and Athena. But
So he moves to Ohio
Yes.
and continues his search for the Silver Key with a lot more haste.
yes,
than he,
with a lot
he
more
had-
haste.
Because the money had kind of...
And also, too, his second motivation is Artemis says she will not get into any kind of relationship until after the game is over.
And so he's like, A, I have to get her to date me, and B, I have to get this key before they kill me.
And it's kind of, he goes into a bit of a depression.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have it, and I'm not a psychological person. I have had it a couple of times because of the medications I've been on, and I'm like, this sounds very similar to depression, where he's just like, he has his routine, he doesn't feel anything, he just goes into it and focuses on what he has to do. Because Artemis is no longer speaking to him. He has ruined his relationship with his best friend H, and he is just solely focused on this thing for the key, and then Artemis gets it first.
Artemis beats him to the
Artemis
Silver Key.
beats him to the Silver Key, and he has no idea.
So.
And so he's confused. But, and then H gets it. Mm-hmm. And so the scoreboard is always public. So the Sixers have also gotten to the silver key. And so he's kind of losing his mind. Because he's like, I was the first one to get the J key. Why can I not figure this out? And then H gives him a hint. Because he inadvertently gave H a hint. And so he ends up going to this castle. Well, not a castle, to this cottage, abandoned cottage.
Right.
In this game and gathering things from this dungeon. And he ends up getting the silver key. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We've been saying it wrong the whole time. It's the copper key and then the jade key. The copper key was the first one. The jade key is the second one.
Second one.
Oh, gracious.
Listen, I'm drunk.
Maybe you shouldn't have put triple sec in your wine.
But bite me.
I'd rather not.
So the jade key is, and that one actually does go through YouTube, doesn't it? The jade key, like,
I believe so. But Daito and Shoto are two of his top competitors as well, which he warned after the attempted murder of him in a private chat room, which chat rooms are always private. IOI would not be able to see it. So he told the top 5, which was H, Artemis, Daito, and Shoto, that IOI was going to physically kill you.
Right, he was trying to warn them because he'd already been attacked. And so he told them in the chat
And they all
room.
went off in separate ways. And then during the quest for the Jade Key,
he has to
Daito.
collect all the
Daito is killed.
He's thrown out a window, right?
Yes. He is suddenly logged out of the Oasis and his avatar is killed, and so he believes... So, Parzival believes Daito's avatar is killed, and then you find out, no, they actually... IOI killed
Daito.
the person behind Daito. They threw him out of a window while he was in his haptic suit in the Oasis.
Yeah.
And there is footage of it.
So, yeah, so he knows that IOI is, like, literally
Yes.
committed murder at this point.
Which, yeah, IOI has attempted murder. They've actually succeeded at one point. And so then it gets to the point where there is the crystal key that needs to be found and the third gate open, which the second gate is in the same building as the Vonnegut machine is Blade Runner, which, yay, Blade Runner. I know Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner. I love Harrison Ford.
Doesn't.
I don't know. People with no personality hate Harrison Ford. And if you're going to write in about that, you have no personality.
Well.
I'm tired of being nice about it. There are some aspects of Harrison Ford that are not nice, but I'm willing to forgive them for Han Solo.
Like, doesn't he have to play Black Tiger at the
He
second
does. He has to enter through this Kurt Vonnegut machine to prove he is not a robot, and then he has to play first-person Black Tiger. And so, while he is looking for the second gate, he comes across this Pac-Man machine on the arcade world.
The fruits.
Yes, and he plays a perfect game of Pac-Man, and he gets this random quarter that he thought might have opened the gate, and it was nothing. He just gets a quarter, and it doesn't say what it is. Which, at the time, it's like, this is an odd... When you're reading the book, you're like, this is an odd thing to put in, because, you know, authors don't put in stuff that's not necessary, but I don't see the point of this. I just hope it pays off later.
Yeah, he just hangs on to this. Because, okay, so have you ever played Pac-Man? I'm sure you've played it before.
Yes, I've played Pac-Man.
How far have you ever gotten in Pac-Man?
Not very far. I think maybe level 4. I am not a video game person, Casey. I'm bad at video games.
So
I watch
Pac-Man,
Paul play video games.
A perfect game of Pac-Man means not only getting all the way to the second banana level, it means getting... Because the levels are not, like, numbered. Mm-hmm. It's like each level is like a fruit. So there's, like, the cherry, and then there's the strawberry, and then there's the peach. And then not only getting to that level and winning, but not losing any lives in the process.
Yeah.
Pac-Man has 3 lives. It's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's a very challenging thing to do. So he does that, and that's what
gets him this coin, and he's kind of disappointed at that point because he thinks
He thought it was a gate, and it was not.
he thought it was the gate, but it wasn't. And then he had to play the other game. What did I just say?
Black Tiger.
Black Tiger to open the gate.
And then he gets a mighty fighty robot to choose from.
So then the third...
Which I can... when they got to the mighty fighty robots, I'm like, oh man, I need to go see this movie.
Have you seen the Ready Player One?
No, I haven't seen the movie yet, have you?
No, I haven't either. It comes out on DVD today, I think.
We should rent it.
We should.
Maybe not tonight.
No.
But stop that.
I'm sorry.
I don't know what you're doing,
I've
but
got a
stop
zit.
that.
I've got a zit.
Stop it.
It bothers me. So anyway, Mighty Fighty Robot.
Yes, he gets to pick a mighty fighty robot after he masters Black Tiger, which is a first-person shooter game. And so then he clears the
FPS.
second...
I'm not a fan.
Casey's not a fan of FPS. I don't
Listen!
know what that means.
It's a first-person shooter. So,
Oh,
like,
okay.
Halo is a first-person shooter, and I hate it.
Don't let McKittrick hear you say that.
Liz McKittrick, you better fucking be listening to this podcast. Also, I hate Halo. It's full of stupid teenage boys.
I will sell tickets to the McKittrick-Aaron's fight that is going to be happening sometime tomorrow.
I honestly don't know which one of us would win in a physical
I
fight.
really don't, because you're both feisty as HE double hockey sticks.
The
Casey, Mallory and I will place bets and sit back and drink and watch.
The Crystal Key!
Yes, and the Crystal Key, the Sixers have found the final location to the Crystal Key, but
They
they
just don't know how to
still,
get
they know, they have the Crystal Key, they cannot open the gate.
And to open the gate,
They cannot figure out how to open the gate.
you have to do like a...
It's Schoolhouse Rock.
I thought there was Monty Python involved.
There is, but to open the gate, it's Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
The power of threes.
Right, the power of three.
And that is something that you have to have 3 people to open the final gate. You have to have 3 crystal keys. So,
Which is interesting because this whole time, Holiday's
Which
will
this-
makes it seem like one person is going to win this whole thing, but then you get to the end and you can't win it without
without help.
friends.
And so the only way, Sorrento, the evil IOI corporation, has put a force field around Anorak's castle where the 3rd gate is.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wade Owen Watts, in the real world, hacks the computer system of IOI to make it look like he owes them a ton of money, gives them indentured servitude, and becomes an indentured servant in order to hack the IOI systems to bring down this force field, which that takes balls.
It really does.
So he uses codes he found on the black market to bring down this shield, and then he sends out, once he gets out, he sends a massive message out to everybody saying, hey, all Gunters in the world, if you do not want Sixers to get the Easter egg, come here at noon on this date and time. This is when the shield will go down and epic battle will ensue.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, he gets onto a private chat room with Artemis and H, who he has reconciled with.
Yes.
And then they discover that Ogden Morrow has been trailing them and offering encouragement in what way he can. Because he does not want IOI to get it either.
Right. Nobody
And-
wants IOI to get it. Fuck IOI.
Yeah, you discover that the reason Ogden and Halliday had a falling out in their youth was over Ogden's wife, Kira.
Over a girl.
Over a girl. Which,
Boys are so dumb.
I don't know. I mean, if your heart's broken, your heart's broken. But they had a major falling out because, well, if somebody confessed to me, like, I don't know, if someone in our friend group confessed to me that they loved Paul, I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? That's
yeah,
my
but what does
husband.
it matter if Paul's not in love with them?
It doesn't matter to me that Paul is not in love with them. I'm like, I would not be able to trust that person again.
Why not? You don't choose who
Because
you love.
they would be trying, I would always see it as trying to take Paul from me because I'm a jealous hoofbag.
Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. Is like I don't understand the jealousy. Like I understand being like, oh, like I don't like. I mean, if you were with someone and that person had feelings for someone else who also had feelings for them, like that would be a reason to be jealous.
See, a lot
but
of my
if you're with
friendship-
someone and you know that they love you and only you, it doesn't matter if somebody else is in love with them. First off, you can't control who you fall in love with, so like you can't be mad at somebody for falling in love with somebody who you have also determined the goodness of. But like if you know that the person that they're in love with is in love with you 100%, then there's no reason to worry about it or be jealous.
I would be upset because everything I would see them doing, I would see as them trying to take my love away from me. That's how I would see it.
Any sense to me.
Well, that's why we're different people.
I don't understand jealousy. It seems like an exhausting waste of time.
I try to avoid it as much as I can, but there are certain situations where I cannot. But yes, they had a falling out over Ogden's wife, Kira, who Holiday loved.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had their falling out, and so Ogden Morrow offers H and Artemis and Shoto and Parzival a sanctuary at his home,
Big fancy mansion.
which looks like Rivendell,
Yeah.
which I would die for.
Yeah.
And so, for the first time in his life, Parzival meets H in real life. And H is a big black lesbian girl.
Yo.
Hello!
Yep.
Which, by the way, we both love.
Yes. H uses like a
A white male
avatar.
avatar. Because they saw the benefits.
Yeah.
You know, it's like people claim they're not racist. They really are. I know I
Or
am, and I
sexist.
try not to.
Yeah, it's H is basically understanding that white males have a certain level of privilege, even in like what is this 20, 50, 50?
2044.
That's what I say.
Yes, white males have white cis males have unknown privilege in 2044. Weird.
Shocker! It's not like they haven't had privilege for every year before then.
Summarize history in a few words. White men are dangerous.
Anyway, so that's why she uses a white male avatar, but it's actually she is
Yes, she
not
was
only a woman, not only black, but also a lesbian. So she's like
she is a curvy
three
black
different
woman
minority groups,
who is a lesbian.
and she is fat.
Yeah.
So she's really afraid of how Parzival's going to react when he meets her.
Yeah, and he is just like,
He's surprised.
he was surprised, but he's like, it's H, and their banter picks
It's
up
my
the
best
way it
friend,
did on
yeah.
the internet, and he's like, it's a little weird, but okay, why not, you know?
Yeah. And he meets Artemis too, right?
Yes, he does not meet Artemis till the end of the book.
Yeah.
She refuses to meet him in person because he has discovered that she has a giant birthmark on one side of her face.
And she's afraid to
She's
let him
afraid,
see it.
yeah, of letting him see it because she thinks he won't like her anymore.
So, the three of them go to get the crystal key.
Mm-hmm.
He has to get a certain amount of points in the game Tempest. And
Yeah.
also has to do like a film sync of
Which,
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
yes, so epic battle ensues. Force field comes down around Castle Anorak, and he's like, okay, there's four of us, all four of us. At least three of us need to take our crystal keys and turn them into the door at the same time to open the last gate. And so they know it's a race against time once they do that, because as soon as they do that, IOI will know how to open the gate as well.
Right.
So he does it. Shoto gets revenge on Sorrento.
Right, for killing Daicho.
Yeah, so epic mighty fighty robot battle ensues, along with crazy avatar battle ensues with the rest of the Oasis and the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as they get the gate open, a massive artifact detonates and wipes out the entire planet.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason Parzival is not wiped out is because of that little quarter he got. At
Extra
that,
life.
useless Pac-Man game because it was an extra life. So he was able to regenerate where no one else was.
And open the third gate.
Yeah, the gate was open. He just had to get through.
So he goes through the gate and he gets the egg.
Yes, he does. He gets the egg on the
Obtains
final
control.
level in the secret room of adventure.
It obtains control of the
And he
entire
can
oasis.
obtains control of the entire oasis, along with a button that says it will erase the entire oasis. And so he wins the game. He wins the biggest game
The
known
race.
to mankind.
It's like the Amazing Race
It is.
on the internet.
So he wins the race, and then he comes out, and his first thing is he resurrects all of his friends. He is a god now in the Oasis. He is God. He resurrects his friends. He has infinite lives. He has infinite energy. He has infinite points. He has infinite money to spend. And so this 17-year-old boy becomes the master of a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Yeah.
And he comes back to the real world, and he meets Artemis in real life for the first time. His real name is Samantha. And they share a kiss, and I believe the last line of the book is something like, for the first time in his life, he didn't want to blog back onto the Oasis.
Which is interesting because you just gain control of the whole thing.
Yeah, you just gain control of the whole thing.
So overall, like, the book is clearly... Obviously, it's getting a lot of information from different sources and ripping
Yes,
off a lot of
Ernest
things.
Cline either needs to be a massive, like, he needed to have been a massive pop culture geek in the 80s, or he did a
lot
ton of research that I can greatly admire for this book.
I don't know. I mean, like, all, like...
Because there's Star Trek references. I listened to the audiobook, which was narrated by Will Wheaton, who apparently is President of the United States in 2044, and I will fully support him running for 2044.
Honestly, could it get worse?
Mm.
Answer, it could not.
To quote Crowley, yeah.
That's a nice quote. Nice quote.
Yeah.
Good job.
Episode 2.
My thing is, I find...
You are drunk.
Shh, don't tell. I think the most interesting thing about it is it's like this very socialist idea that everyone should have free access to these things, like the Oasis. And, like, Parzival could have done exactly what IOI wanted to do whenever he got access. He could have privatized the whole thing and made even more money, and but he chose to, because the thing that he had that the IOI people didn't was like this close connection with other people and like his friends that he wanted to take care of. That's why he revived them as soon as he came out of the third gate, is because he had this connection and he wanted to do what was right by other people, not just what would be the most benefit to him, which IOI didn't understand.
It seems like this book, and a lot of the books we read, is a lot of it also touches on humanity. It's like, we are the relationships we make. And James Halliday, since his only close relationship was with Og and his wife, those were the people that he trusted most.
Wasn't Kira's name a password to something?
It was. Kira's name, her D&D name, was the final password to get into the computer to play the adventure game, which is where the egg was.
Yeah.
It started with an L. It was a D&D name, because he was so nervous around women that he would only refer to Kira or Karen as her D&D name. It was
Underwood.
No, that's not right.
That was her. Lucrocia.
Yes! Lucrocia.
Lucosia. He was a crazy recluse and used her D&D character's name, Lucosia, as his password all the way to his death 50 years later.
Yeah.
But Lucosia is a siren in Greek mythology.
I did not know
She's
that.
also the one who gave him the nickname Anorak.
Yes, which is the name of his avatar that he used until his death. So, it's all about his relationship with Kira and with Ogden that ended up being the key to the whole thing. So, and it is also that relationship with Artemis that Parzival has that really pushes him to solve this puzzle. It's not the hate of IOI, it's the love of Artemis.
Yeah.
So this really all comes down to love and his friendships.
When you say it like that, it sounds so cliche.
I know, but what about humans is not cliche?
I don't know.
That was a good couple seconds before that wonderful, eloquent response. Thank you, Casey, for your input.
Fuck off.
I love you.
So, here's my question.
Yes.
If you lived in the same sort of situation as Wade,
Oh,
Wade Watts,
yes.
which makes me think of Wade Wilson from Deadpool.
I know. Wade Owen
I'm sure
Watts.
that's not a mistake.
Probably not.
If you were Wade, what era of pop culture would it have to be for you to be able to successfully traverse through the whole Easter egg hunt?
I know what it would be for my husband.
What's that?
Roman history.
What a nerd.
I love Paul, okay? Leave him alone.
So a nerd.
He is not a nerd. He's adorkable.
You use the word dork in there. That means he's a nerd. I'm allowed to call him a nerd. I'm a nerd.
He married a nerd.
It's all nerdy here.
Era of... I'm not really
We
into...
do a podcast about books. It's like book club for drunk people. We're nerds.
That's called book club, Casey.
Do people drink at regular book club?
Yes, dear.
I've never been to a book club. It sounds like an old white woman thing.
You should go.
I don't want to.
Why? Because you're not old?
Yeah.
You are a white woman.
I don't plan to be old. I'm a white person.
You're a white person. I'm sorry.
Gender is a social construct.
Drink.
Listen, it is, though. That's going to be one of my shots,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so era of pop culture. I could probably do it on certain things. Like, I could probably do it on fairy tale and mythology.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think I could do it on a specific... Like, I couldn't do it on, like, the 90s or the 70s or the 90s.
I probably could do it on the 80s. Like, most of the stuff that he does in the games, like, I had a pretty good idea of. Like, as I was reading the book. Like, I was like, yeah,
Like, if somebody left a trail of breadcrumbs through a fairy tale mythological world with mythological creatures, I could do it. Especially...
Greek mythology, that's my
Oh.
jam. I'm real good
Oh,
at Greek
hell
mythology.
yeah.
I'm real good at Greek mythology.
Me too. So, and I didn't even read Percy Jackson.
You didn't read Percy Jackson?
No, that might have to go on the list.
I love Percy Jackson. I mean, they're kids' books, but they're so fun.
I know, that might have to go on the
I
list.
enjoyed the shit out of the Percy Jackson books, I'm not gonna lie.
So, you
would.
think you could do it on the 80s?
Yeah, probably.
I thought you would just want to do it on David Bowie music.
I could do it on David Bowie. That'd be easy. David Bowie music, movies, his other endeavors. He was a painter, too.
I didn't know he was a painter.
Yeah.
All, you know, well, we're spoofing, you know, RFP is spoofing Labyrinth for Halloween, so.
Yeah,
And we
'cause
want
you-
you to be,
yeah.
we want you to be Bowie.
I will.
I'm naming the
No, I
Ghost
will.
King Bowie, so you better be there.
I'll be there. You know I will. Just gotta be careful with it in the middle of busy season.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know I'll be there. So this book, overall, very fun. But like I said, this book has a certain, like, I enjoy it.
There are some very dark themes, especially. It's definitely it can be for young readers. It can be for like young adults.
That's not really what bothers me about it. Like I said earlier, that I called it the Fight Club of video game books, and I meant that in the sense that, like, okay, this is probably quote unquote controversial, but
When are you not?
when am I not?
Go.
There is a certain level of entitlement and gatekeeping that happens in fandom in general.
Oh, hell yes!
But it's
I
the
almost
worst
said it.
in, like, online stuff with, like, video games.
Oh, it's
And
a boys' club.
It's a boy. Yeah, it's usually men who perpetuate it So if you're a woman and you come into
That's
something...
why I like H being a woman.
Yeah. So if you're a woman and you come into something and you're, like, trying to enjoy yourself and have a good time, you're suddenly getting quizzed on 15 different, like, technical aspects of it to prove that you're a quote-unquote real fan.
Ever had to prove yourself to get to something you had a right to be at?
Yeah,
like,
all the time.
Yeah. Tell us a story.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking of in the context of video games, like, I don't do a lot of online multiplayer gaming anymore. I said I hated Halo.
Yeah.
And the reason I hate Halo is because whenever I first started playing Halo was when the Xbox was fairly new and the online gaming system was fairly new. And I made the mistake of getting on there with a headset and being on audio, and as soon as people heard my voice, assumed that I was a woman, I was just the target of all sorts of bullshit. And, like, if the things that those people were saying were horrible, if I fucked up, it was worse. Like, if I fucked up in the same way that a man fucked up, it was like, it wasn't because I was just fucking up, it was because I was a woman, and a woman shouldn't be playing the game anyway because she doesn't know what she's doing. This whole thing,
My
point is a lot of the fans of Ready Player One and a lot of the fandom that surrounds it is that same kind of self-entitled male, people who started Gamergate and who were doxing women who dared to have opinions about video games. And so while I enjoy the book, some of my enjoyment has been dampened by the people who have claimed it as their own. It's the Fight Club. I call it Fight Club because that's what Fight Club is. It's like they're missing the point that the book itself is trying to make.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of the point they want to make, and they're just seeing the specific aspects that they like. Fight Club is all about toxic masculinity and how it can damage society.
Yes.
But they just see it as like, oh, tough guys fight in a club, and like, yeah, he has multiple personalities.
No, that's not Fight Club.
Right. And like, but like they so much that fandom has taken over that that's the idea behind it. And I see a lot of that happen with Ready Player One too.
I have had to answer trivia about X-Men to prove that I should be at a midnight premiere.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went with a couple of my friends one time, and she and I both had to answer trivia about Wolverine to prove that we should be at the midnight showing of X-Men. And then I asked them a question, and it stumped them, and they're like, well, that's not important. I'm like, do you see the BS you were putting on us now?
Yeah,
because they're like, well, chicks are not into X-Men, and I'm like, I grew up on this series. I have an older brother that is into X-Men, and so that's what I watched when I was 3 or 4 years old instead of Sesame Street.
Right. I just think that a lot of the fans of Ready Player One, both the book and the movie, which again I have not seen yet, so I can't pass judgment. Although I have been told to view it as just a random movie and not one connected to the book because it doesn't follow plot.
Oh no! I hate it when that happens.
But
it was directed by Steven Spielberg, and Ernest Cline was a consultant screenwriter on it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I can't speak to it because I haven't seen it yet.
Me neither.
My point is, a lot of the online commentary I've seen about this book has been those men who are just like, this is our thing and you're not welcome and you're not allowed. And so I just kind of like, I enjoy the book, but like I'm hesitant to engage with the community of fans surrounding the book because they seem like the same kind of guys who chased me off for playing Halo by calling me all sorts of sexist nicknames. So
if any of you are listening to this, we're coming for you.
Yeah,
sleep with one eye open, honey.
I don't have any patience for Gamergate assholes. I don't have any. It doesn't matter. First off, it doesn't matter what gender or race a person is. They are allowed to enjoy a thing.
Yeah.
Second off, it doesn't matter how much of a fan they are. If someone is at an X-Men movie, if they only like X-Men movies, that's fine.
Yeah.
If they've read every X-Men comic since 1972, that's fine too. But they're not, the people who have read the comics are not any better of fans than the people who just like X-Men movies.
Being a fan does not mean you were there since the beginning. It means you're willing to be there till the end.
Being a fan is not even about that. It's just about, like, I like the thing. Like, it doesn't mean you have to like the things that it was based off of, or the thing.
Let people like the thing.
Yeah. And so that's been my thing with, like, Ready Player One. It's like, I read the book a long time ago. When it first came out. And, like...
this was my first read of it.
See, the thing is, Ready Player One came out before Gamergate happened.
Mm.
And in the years since Gamergate happened, I have watched the people who are fans of Ready Player One, specifically when the movie came out, and the way they talk about it, I've watched it more and more hostile towards people who are not
Look, just
true
because
fans,
just because you can hide behind the anonymity of a keyboard doesn't mean you're not being an asshole.
Yeah, which I think that's interesting. I think the book speaks to that whole, like, people are different on the internet than they are in real life. Like, even whenever you have someone, like, I mean, obviously, like, I have a very, very dear friend I have multiple very dear friends that I've met online, but I learned more about them whenever I met them in person, and things about their personality I wouldn't have ever been able to identify just through online contact. Not because being friends with someone online is wrong, or because those friendships aren't valid, but just because when you're anonymous online, it's easier to say and do things.
Yeah.
Including bullying other people. And so I think the takeaway there is people are entitled to basic human dignity regardless of whether they're on the internet or off of it. And, like, you shouldn't bully people on the internet because you know you can get away with it.
That is a very good moral. I don't think it is in this story, though.
Well, I think you can take it away from the story because, like, there's a reason that H, like, went as a straight white man on the internet, because straight white men are not tended. If she had gone as herself, a fat, queer black woman,
oh yeah, it never would have happened.
She would have gotten bullied. She probably wouldn't have even made friends with Parzival. Like, he's a decent dude, but he probably wouldn't have come into her circle.
But that was the beauty of the OASIS, was that you could be anybody you wanted to be, and it's just...
That's not the beauty of the OASIS. Like, the beauty of the OASIS, like, being that you can be anybody you want to be, that's only has to be there because of racism and sexism. Like, if everything was good, the beauty of the OASIS would be you could be yourself and not have to worry. The fact that she had to hide who she was in the
Humans are not like that.
I think they can be.
They can be.
Don't try to be.
They can be, but
So
they're not,
I think
Casey.
it's fair to say there's a moral there that's saying, I'm not saying you can do it across the board, but on an individual basis, you can think about it. And, like,
so are you saying that it's like you should love people for their real self and not who they are pretending to be? Because that is something I can get from the book.
Yes, and I'm also saying that I'm saying if more people did that, people wouldn't have to hide behind who they're pretending to be. People could just be who they are.
It's a very mystique kind of mentality. She shouldn't have to look like everybody else to be accepted, even though she can.
Yeah. Like, I can go on the internet right now and create a profile for,
Okay.
like, a straight white dude and, like, you know, make
Okay.
friends based on that, but I shouldn't have to.
I can get behind that.
So I know that's not the main point of the book, but that's just what I'm thinking about now.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the main point of the book is net neutrality comes up a lot, especially now. Caring about people and loving them for who they are versus who they pretend to be. That definitely comes up a lot in this book. Do I need to take that away from you?
You can't do anything alone.
No, you can't do anything alone. You need to have friends. You need to have those real relationships. And you can have real relationships on the internet.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. The people that are like, these aren't your real friends,
2 of my best
don't
friends
really care.
in the world.
It's awful.
Came from the internet.
Yeah.
I told you about Jez.
Yeah.
She was my first roommate after I graduated from college, but I met her on that X-Men Evolution forum board back in, like,
Allie's got Twiggy.
2005.
Okay,
And
I have
Jez and Jenna,
Yeah.
I met on the internet because we both were interested in Haruka Murakami's books.
You've mentioned those a lot. We should
We're
read
gonna
one.
do After
read one.
Dark at some point. It's one of my favorite books.
My friend Allie met her best friend in that Tamora Pierce RPG, Denise. And so it got to, like, Denise is a glorious, feisty black woman. And so, like, they would send stuff to each other labeled Black Allie and White Denise. I'm like, hey guys.
Tamora Pierce.
Yes, Tamora Pierce. Have you ever read any of those books? The
Yeah,
Alana series, or...
I read something with dragons.
There's a lot of dragons.
I'm trying to remember.
It's a very medieval fantasy kind of thing. I remember distinctly reading the Alana series, and then there was another... The
Dragon's Tale. No.
What was the other... I read 3 of the series. I read Alana, and then there was a girl that was the daughter of an animal god. And then there was another girl that trained to be a knight. It started with a K. I didn't read it. I haven't read any of those since I was like 13, 14 years old.
My first Tamora Pierce book was, in middle school. Maybe the Immortals? Does that sound like a thing? Is that a thing?
that sounds right.
But also I remember Tamora Pierce mainly because she is anti-fanfiction.
Oh, I did not know that.
She is adamantly like, don't write fanfiction about my books.
Which encourages people to write fanfiction.
I'm like, go fuck off and die. Everything was fanfiction at one point. Like,
you mean 50 Shades of Grey?
no. No, I do not. I mean that fanfiction gives people confidence to write their own original fiction.
Okay, that's
and
true.
I mean that fanfiction is not a criticism of your work, but rather a compliment that someone cares about your characters.
I'm not gonna lie.
To write about them. I don't do as much fanfiction as I used to do, but fanfiction is...
It helps you develop your tone and your
Fanfiction
writing.
is a radical feminist choice. And, like, for people to, like...
I want that on a t-shirt. Fanfiction is a radical feminist choice.
I'm just saying...
Someone make that for me. I will love you forever.
People like Tamora Pierce, or God forbid, fucking Anne Rice, who are like, don't write fanfiction
Oh
of
my
my work.
God.
I'm like, you're being
Anne
an
Rice
asshole.
is asking for fanfiction because
She didn't
Lestat...
make anybody gay enough.
Yeah. Hella yay.
We're getting off topic
We
again.
are.
How many bottles would you give Ready Player One?
3.75. It's
very
not
specific.
quite a 4. It's not quite a 4, but it's not a 3 either, but it was really good. I mean, like, I enjoyed it. I had fun.
Oh yeah,
I had fun listening
it's
to this
very
book.
much like an adventure story. It's like a classic
It's
adventure
very
story.
much a quest.
Yeah.
It's a quest story, which is why I like the allegory with
the same
Parzival
vein
and
as,
King
like,
Arthur.
a King Arthur or Lord of the Rings.
They
or-
are looking for the Holy Grail.
And at the end, they have to do a film sync of Monty Python and
Yes.
the Holy Grail and the quest for the Holy Grail, which is interesting since this name is Parzival.
Yes.
I'm sure he felt a certain amount of satisfaction with that.
Yes, and he's quoting Monty Python, and he is making his friends laugh, and this is this big, scary situation, and he's like, I'm having fun. This is a blast.
I think that all people.
Your mother was a hamster.
Your father smelled the melons. I think that all
I
rich,
fought in your general direction.
all rich people should, instead of having a will, should have an Easter egg hunt. For their
Really?
will. Yes.
Ooh,
That
okay.
would be fun.
So then that leads me to this question. What would your Easter egg hunt be about?
My Easter egg hunt?
Yeah. Where would you hide clues?
If I had a vast wealth or ownership of some sort of property that was in high demand, and I was going to have an Easter egg hunt for people to find it after I died, it would probably be just movies.
Movies?
Movies across the board. Like my favorite movies, or even like, characters that have like touched me. I like the film sync thing.
Okay. Yeah, I love the film sync. I would do...
If I had to do a film sync for a movie that people had to go through and get correct exactly to get like one of the keys to find my great well, I would have a film sync for sure for I want to say Princess Bride, but anybody could do that nowadays. It wouldn't be a challenge. Like, Princess Bride is so pervasive in modern culture.
If you had 3.
So I had 3.
3.
Princess Bride
Princess Bride. That could be the first gate.
would be the first gate. Film sync for...
Because I would probably do Labyrinth, Pirates, Van Helsing.
Princess
Would
Bride.
be my 3. Those would be my 3.
I'm trying to think of what movies I just watched.
I'm going to regret that in the morning.
Over and over again.
Phantom of the Opera.
I don't watch that movie hardly at all.
No, but I would leave clues from the musical.
I could just do musicals. That would be
Yeah,
hilarious.
we could just do musicals.
There's like 5 people in the world.
You have to do the choreography from Newsies or you fail.
Oh god. Oh my god. So
I'm
in
the
Shrek
king
we're
of
doing
New
the box
York.
step. We're doing the Les Mis box step as part of one of our songs.
Casey.
Yeah. So. No, I would say musicals.
There'd be musicals. There'd be those 3 movies. I would
Movies,
also
musicals, and probably music in general. I love music. David Bowie obviously is my main man. Love
I'd
him.
leave hints in Queen, Panic at the Disco, and Fall Out Boy.
Brendan Urie, listen to our podcast. I love you.
We're coming to see you in February when you come through Kansas City.
It was
We're
my
coming
second-
together.
it was my second time seeing him.
I'm
after the
so
time-
mad I didn't get to see him in Lawrence.
After the time that I was
Yeah, moving on.
in Lawrence. The time in Lawrence.
The time in Lawrence.
That was a time.
Mm-hmm.
Margaritas in Lawrence.
Yep. I would probably also hide clues in fairy lore.
You're really obsessed with fairy tales.
I
That would
love
be-
fairy
That
tales.
would be very you.
Definitely, there would be a lot of fairy tales. There'd also be a lot of
Maybe
Greek
I should
mythology.
make everybody know about French history.
French. Hey, I could do that. Paul would help me.
True, you would.
Okay, so you have to understand, we one time had a bachelorette party at my house, and Casey stayed the night, and I come down for breakfast in the morning, and my husband is sitting in the kitchen with Casey, both of them having coffee, talking about the June Revolution.
Listen, we like history. What can I say? My dad's a history teacher. I've always been taught that history is the most important thing that the most important asset we have to learn how to improve upon ourselves.
Those who do not understand history are doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
Which people need to open their eyes. That's all I'm saying about that.
So you gave it 3.75.
3.75 bottles. How many do you give?
3.5.
3.5?
Which puts it at what, like
3.6666666
3
repeating.
and 2/3 bottles.
3
of
and
wine.
2/3 bottles of wine. It's a
Not
pretty decent score.
Too shabby. Wait until we finally get to a book that I'm going to give 4.5 stars.
Well, you need to
Bottles.
start being a little bit more.
I'm not.
I don't know.
I'm not very generous with my books.
No,
Listen,
you're not.
I can think of maybe 5 books that I would give more than 3.5 stars to in my entire life.
And one of them was Good Omens.
And one of them was Good Omens. But I'm just not. I'm very, very particular.
Yes, well,
I think that everything has room for improvement. So,
what are we reading next?
we are reading Agatha Christie
Agatha Christie next. And then The Gates.
Robert Connolly.
John Connolly.
John Connolly, excuse me.
The Gates
I've
is
never
one
read
of
The
my
Gates.
favorite books.
I need to get a hold of a copy of it. I've already started Agatha Christie,
I have the audiobook.
but I don't have John Connolly yet. They don't have it on the
Kindle. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy it.
and then
They
I
don't
know
have it
in
at the
October,
library.
I know we have plans for October because Casey and I are massive Halloween nerds.
Yo,
We love Halloween, so we're
is
gonna
my
start.
favorite.
So coming in September, for our lovely listeners, we're gonna start slowly creeping down into the creepy for Halloween.
And then in October, we will give you 2 of our favorite creepy books.
Yes, 2 of our favorite creepy books. So stay tuned for that. You can follow us on Twitter at Wine Literature. We're also on Facebook
And Instagram.
and Instagram.
And
you
we have our own website, literaturepodcast.com, where you
Yes.
can find out about future episodes.
And you can join our Patreon.
Yeah, we just set up our Patreon, so you have Patreon gives you access to things like behind-the-scenes videos, additional episodes, and even more excitingly, you could have a book of your choice on the podcast if you decide to be
Yes,
that
so you
generous.
have if you have a book you are dying to hear 2 drunk girls review, you can become a Patreon member and we will do it.
Listen, I'll do manga. I'll do your smutty romance book. Whatever it is, if you
I
go
love
to that
smutty
level
romance. If
on
you
our-
have a smutty romance, I am all for it.
But if you go to that level on our podcast or on Patreon, we will not only record that book on the podcast, we will dedicate it to
Even
you
if it's
personally.
your own fan fiction.
or your own novel.
Yeah.
You send us a PDF of your own novel, we'd be happy to read that too.
Yeah, totally.
Time
and we'll
is-
review it.
It'd
Yeah.
be fun. It'd
Yeah.
be great.
Fun times at
Thank
Ridgemont
you
High.
guys so much for listening. Again, hit us up on any of those social medias if you'd like to. And remember,
All work
and
and
no
no vacation deserves at least a small libation. Casey is in the bag. Cheers.
Have a good night, folks. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. For more information, visit us at litliteraturepodcast.com or on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And remember, too much work and no vacation deserves at least a small libation. Cheers!